all here, it is 8 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, any public discussion? Nope, alright. We'll move on. I need a motion to approve the agenda and minutes dated March 4th.
So moved.
Motion by Wactor,
A second.
second by Garmin. Any discussion on the agenda or minutes? If not, all in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous. And we have, well, we'll wait on the road foreman until they come up. Everyone see the transfers made by the county auditor? Yep. We'll let the record reflect that we acknowledge them. And then we have discussion decision to approve establishment of sub-fund of general basic fund number 01001 for emergency response complex.
So I did set up that sub-fund, it is in this year's, coming year's budget, so it's all set up and ready to go. Treasurer's office did what they needed to do on their side, so we should be set, I just need you guys to approve it, so we're official.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve.
so we've got a motion by Stecker,
I'll second.
second by Wactor. Discussion.
After you, all that, I know I was here, but it was all after you checked with somebody and it's all upright.
Yep, I talked to Elizabeth with Gardner and Company, and
Okay.
she, suggested, or advised that was the best way to go.
Perfect.
Very good. Any other discussion? If not, just need to be roll call or no, or, okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, discussion decision to approve representative for union negotiations with Kossuth County Sheriff's deputies.
We talked about this last week
Mhm.
and decided we needed somebody to represent us, cause we had officially been appointed or talked about even.
Yep.
I
Is
think
that,
we discussed in the past that Taylor's and Cooney,
Mhm.
also handled the, representation stuff.
What's the cost difference, like between Ehlers and Cooney and,
Renee?
Renee? Cause Renee
We looked at
represented the
that.
county for many years. I mean, I would be for what's cost effective.
I think it was when we looked at that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but it was if we were to switch all to Ehlers and Cooney, then it would make sense, otherwise, since we already have Renee for some union negotiations, it was more cost effective to go that way. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I haven't asked them for anything just for this, which might have been a good idea, but, yeah, I think we got prices before for if we
Last year's
wanted to
prices.
bundle everything together and
When you say bundle everything, what do you
that
mean?
would have been HR services and union negotiations.
We
Okay.
use them for HR.
But we do use them for HR.
We use them for HR
My
when there's
gal,
a
yeah.
question, which we kinda did for Renee too,
Yep.
when, we had questions over and above our HR person,
Right.
which that's good, we have to have somebody.
Yep, and they don't do, like, even if we did the whole package with them, they don't do physical delivery of paper, you still need someone here to kind of handle the, point of contact type side of HR, but they do everything kind of administratively and remotely in that regard, and review everything, stuff, so it's a little different than in-house HR.
Well, they're HR attorneys.
Yeah, they're attorneys, and that was one of the things we talked about at that point, I mean.
But that's
it's
HR,
it's a little-
so,
Yeah, and it's a little different than the union stuff, but, with HR, having them as attorneys, you have attorney-client privilege for those communications about that stuff, so.
what does union negotiations cost us with Renee for secondary road?
I'd have to look or ask Doug. Doug, do you know off the top of your head what it costs for Renee?
For some reason, I thought for retainer to do things was about $500 a year. And then during negotiations, like $1,000 a year, something like that. But I'd have to look at the,
Are we comfortable with that?
I would, I mean, I guess if we have Renee representing another union, I think that consistency there is a good thing. She's familiar with our county.
Right,
You know, she's very familiar with the way things are. I know this is now a new union, but, you know, she always worked well with us before.
did she represent them when they used to be in the union?
The county.
The county.
She
The county.
represented the
Yeah.
county.
Right, sorry, yeah, represent
Yeah.
county when we were negotiating with
Yes,
them
she
as
did.
well. Okay.
Yeah.
And when we had all three, she was our representation for all three.
But I think it makes sense to stick with her then.
And I'm not saying this would be end of the world, but the only thing that would maybe be another reason to look at Allers and Cooney for the legal side of it is the changes to the collective bargaining laws. In the last couple of years or whatever, they did change what you can, maybe what and how you bargain on some of that stuff, and law enforcement, I believe, is separated out on some stuff, so.
She's aware of all of that. I mean, that is that's her position. That's what she does for a living, so I think she wouldn't have a job if she wasn't following the laws. I would make a motion to use Von Volkern and Associates, or if that's her current name, or.
Yeah, we can get that. Motion by Garmin to appoint Von Bokert.
I'll second.
We have a second by Wactor. Any further discussion on appointing them as the representative for union negotiations? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous. We'll go back to secondary road foreman update. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Just a little update on the storm over the weekend, or through the week. Had quite a struggle with a lot of cars stuck in snow drifts. Took us a lot longer to get through a few things. Showed a big importance of how important it is to have our good equipment and keep good equipment in our system to get the work done. Otherwise, things was a battle, but we got through it, and you know, things are looking up from here on out.
Well, the new guys got a test. Seriously.
Yeah.
Even ones that have been here 3 years, they haven't had snow.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
I like
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah, it was great.
they struggled, you know, but they got through it and found out what could be, you know, down the road when we do have winters
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, so experience is key. A lot of guys that had the experience knew how to handle it. Younger guys that didn't, it's a struggle. You learn, that's how you learn.
Yep.
I mean, actually, it's an unfortunate, but it was a good thing. New guys got a taste of what it could be, you know, and stuff, and we gotta have experience out there, because, the experienced guys help the new guys a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
And that's where you gotta do it, you know.
keep the guys
and stuff.
together.
And so there's a lot of questions of what to do, and that's good, that's how they learn, but the seat is how you learn, you know,
Yep.
and stuff, so.
And it was
had a
probably
lot of
fortunate that
guys
it happened in
pulling
March
out.
rather than December.
You know, we had a number of guys get stuck, and it all worked out, so. But I'm glad it was only a 1-day deal and not a week-long deal, you know.
Right.
That's why I'm coming behind it,
Right.
or we would be really struggling.
And the second wave didn't turn out as much, or turn out to be too
No.
much, so that
Well,
was,
we're in March, we got that sun.
Yeah,
That was-
yeah.
That was huge, you know,
right,
and stuff,
50-degree temps in the middle made a big difference.
but- Yeah, well, blacktops were melting the day it was blowing,
right,
you know.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, while it was blowing still.
So we lucked out there, and we had to get the stuff pushed back. Biggest thing is get the stuff pushed back to get the water off the roads, you know, I had to tell everybody, work that stuff back, cause it's gonna melt right on the road and make the roads a mess, you know. So it worked out, but like you said, we're thankful it's March and not December,
Mhm.
you know?
We, break equipment at all, anything break down that's significant?
Nothing significant, a few
Yes.
minor things, but nothing significant.
Hoses or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
So, but we're okay that way.
Another little piece of information is, say we have a grader get stuck, we have to pull another grader from another territory to come in. We could lose up to 3 hours by the time we make the circle to get everybody back on their territory. So when the public is unhappy because we didn't get the road open quickly, a lot of times there's a reason that we didn't get there, you know,
Right.
and that's some of it right there, you know? So, and that's
We had a
just
lot of-
miscommunication, misunderstanding by a lot of, you know, just the general public.
Nothing major, but we had a number of pullouts.
Yep. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
great,
so we gotta retain, we gotta keep the experience, because it showed in spades, big time this one. This one showed that the experience was huge, you know?
Very much appreciated.
yep,
Yes,
thank
thank you.
good work.
Just, nobody got hurt, nobody hit a car.
Right.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yep, thanks to all the employees for the good work and
Yeah.
staying safe through all that, and, yeah, appreciate the update, so.
Nobody seen a robin?
Nope,
I haven't seen a robin.
No,
nope.
Snow did stick to the north side of the
Geese.
tree. That's good. Just Bill and Scott, have you guys ever walked into a shop and caught employees, operators playing cards?
No, I have not.
No. I'll tell you, I've gone to shops before they even opened up, and ran a guy down to Algona for picking up a piece of equipment. I've gone to shops at 3 o'clock, 3:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and we just come, we don't call ahead.
They don't know when we're showing up, we
And,
just show
I'll
up.
tell you what, I've never seen anything, and I'm not gonna kid anybody here, I'll tell it if it's true. I haven't seen anybody, I haven't even seen a deck of cards around me, you know? So I believe the guys, and every time I came in there, they were either power washing, or the guys were changing bits, or doing something, so productivity was good. I'm very pleased at how the guys are handling their shops.
Very good.
Was the snow worse to the north than the south, or pretty consistent? I don't know, I stayed home.
How was your driveway, Howard?
My driveway sucked.
Yeah,
I think the north end received a couple more inches than what the south end did.
with
It's hard
that
to-
wind, it didn't
Hard to
matter.
see.
Yeah, it was hard to measure when you got drifts. that
Yeah,
are
with the
4
wind,
foot
you had 5-foot drifts, if you had 3 inches of snow, or you had 5-foot drifts, you had 8 inches of snow, you know? It didn't matter with that wind, it just blew it up, and anything that restricted the speed created a drift, you know? Chunk of grass created a drift across the road. You know?
Very good, appreciate it.
yes, thank you.
You guys have a great week.
You guys do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cutting ditches, cutting the shoulders.
Oh, yeah. Mowing's a big,
thing.
mowing, like I told every new guy, mark down your spots, cause next year mowing is key.
I mean, mowing the shoulders is just huge to keep anything off of down here.
Okay, we
No, I don't.
We are up to,
How about Robin?
we'll give it a minute to,
I'm up and I see, and otherwise I do.
alright, up to discussion decision, extend longevity for employees the past 20 years. This is continuation of we already approved the jailers, so it's just
Yeah.
making that a rule for all employees then.
Yeah, does that, like, I'm not familiar with the secondary road contract, but will that have to be talked about for them, or is it already in theirs?
I don't know.
I
That's a
don't
good
think
question.
I don't think it's in their union agreement.
That would have to
And
be
that would have to
changed.
be a change to
Yeah.
that.
This would be all employees except for those in the
Okay.
union.
And that, so when do we do that again with the?
Next year,
Next year.
next budget, yeah.
Okay,
So probably this fall,
this fall will start,
I would imagine,
because this was the third year, this.
right,
Okay.
right,
You know, just so long as that gets addressed
yep.
for them as well.
can of worms or anything, and I'm still relatively new here, but it was basically a nickel for every 5 years.
Right.
Any thought that might be antiquated, and it could,
Yeah,
Oh, definitely, and we've discussed that for sure,
don't wanna go there now, it's fine.
yeah,
Well, I think, I guess that was more the conversation that I was intending of talking about rather than just the time frame of it, I mean,
the timeframe's the only thing on the agenda today though.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't know you wanted to talk more about.
And I mean, extending it past 20 years for the current schedule, I think is probably fair just to match what we did last week for the jailers, but, as far as maybe even planning ahead for budget discussions next year, I think longevity is a piece that needs to be looked at more than just a general raise to the bases, because that's, I mean, we talked about that how many times this year of someone who's been here X number of years, well, the only way you can structure that pay is in longevity, but it has to be across the board, so you have to figure in the total years of service and kind of what that price tag looks like and how that affects people, and it's a big conversation to go down that, but I guess I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg there, so.
Well, I'd appreciate what little I know, how little I know, but if I heard right, nickel, going from a nickel to a dime, you know, a nickel's $100 a year, you know.
yeah.
Well, it's 5 cents every 5 years, so
I
really,
understand.
if you break it down, it's only a cent per hour per year, so it's $20. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, in my opinion, it's not even worth the paper that it's printed on, I guess.
Well, do you want to put it on the agenda for next
Let's-
week and just add the topic of,
We can,
you
because
know,
we can discuss that anytime, that really has nothing to do with, you know, where are we gonna sit in our fund balances and all that kind of stuff during budget, we can make that
right,
change
Well,
anytime.
well,
It does if you make a significant.
It depends how significant
change.
you're
I
talking.
mean, if you talk 1 cent to 2 cents, or 1 cent for every year to 20 years versus 1 cent every year for 30 years, that doesn't make a significant difference, but if you're talking a serious change, it would absolutely make a difference on fund balance,
Sure.
and that's where you need to have calculations for total years of service that you're even
But-
looking at, and
But we can discuss that, yeah,
So if you want it on next week, how do you want it worded?
I
do you
don't,
wanna vote to extend it
mean,
now?
We're probably not gonna, we don't, it doesn't, yeah, you can discuss it anytime, I guess, but we don't, probably not going anywhere until next budget year, right? Or,
yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, extending it past 20 years for the current schedule, I wouldn't have an issue with doing right now, because it's not gonna make a significant impact, and it
Right.
would match what we did last week, so I'm not opposed to the stuff today, or the way it was on the agenda today necessarily, but I think when we talk about longevity, I think there's more of a conversation that needs to be had rather than just the current schedule.
Okay,
And
fair
I
enough.
don't think that needs to be next week, because we're probably not gonna do anything with it till next year, but might be something for middle of the summer or whatever, when we have a shorter agenda.
To have an idea of what we're.
Rather, yeah, rather than trying to figure it all out now and then have it be something that's not in effect for 15 months or whatever.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Let's plan on talking about it in the fall, because if we're gonna start talking
union negotiation.
negotiations with the road,
Yeah.
Put it on an agenda in August,
I would say, I mean,
September?
not that we can't talk about it later too, but maybe have an initial discussion in end of July.
I like July, August, a whole lot more
Yeah.
than September, October.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
Because then we
rather,
can have a kind of a mindset before we go into those negotiations.
well, and
of
there's
what
information
we're
that,
doing for others.
yeah, and there's information we should have and we should
Okay,
look at
put it on the
before,
22nd.
before we just
July.
pass the
July.
motion.
July 22nd.
July 22nd.
July 22nd, it's going on the agenda, alright?
Yeah, and I mean, if the week before that had a really light agenda and.
We can always change it, right now
we
it's
could
going on the 22nd.
Fluctuate it, I have no issue with that.
Alright,
Sounds
you're right, we need-
Okay.
yeah.
So for extending longevity is what we're gonna do today,
Yeah.
or not, but.
So-
Make a motion to extend the longevity, what's the proper
The
term?
current schedule.
Schedule, of a 5-year schedule going out as long as somebody wants to work.
How did we word that
I
in?
think it was, well, in our minutes, it was extending the current schedule, I think. Extend longevity,
For
this was for the jailers, past 20 years, extending the current schedule.
Yep.
So I would
Word
make
it
that
that way.
one.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can
I'm
second
wondering
this.
if we need to make a change to how it's worded to basically, you know, for our handbook, because that's in the handbook, or is that separate?
It's separate.
Well, that's in our, it's, I don't know if it's listed in the handbook, but it's in that resolution.
Cause right now, the way I understand it
For the
is,
wage schedule.
it's written out, you know, 5 cents for every 5, you know, so 5, 10, up to 20, and then after 20, we're just saying extend it, you know, should we just have it worded in that resolution to just run that specific schedule? And then
It-
just not having, you know,
I think it's just easier just to take the 20 years off and not have an ending date.
Yeah, just be consecutive.
Yeah,
5 cents every
Every 5 years.
No.
Because,
Make it more
let's face it,
complicated
we've
than
had
it needs to be.
employees that were here for 50 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
why,
road department, so.
yeah,
40.
so why,
yeah, my thought was just for simplicity of how it's written out.
sure, I get it,
Well, and,
but,
yeah, and we would need to adjust the resolution, which we'll
Yeah, well,
do.
we-
we do in
we've-
July.
Yeah, and we've got a motion, so need a second.
Well, perfectly willing to amend it to whatever you want,
Okay,
If you've got something you're passionate about, let's get it out there.
Well, I'm just thinking for simplicity, instead of, you know, showing the schedule, and then once we hit 20 years, you're just saying extend it, but, you know, that,
Well, I'm perfectly willing to make a motion, be a longevity pay to increase every 5 years.
I mean, that's already how it is.
yep,
The only thing you're changing is removing the 20 years, so,
You're just taking the cap off.
yeah. That's the only change you're making.
Until we really spend time and dig in and make serious changes to the longevity schedule, I would just leave it under the current format and extend it and call it day. That's the simplest to me. I mean, what we talked about last week, that's what we're doing for the jailers, so. I wouldn't get hung up on how we're gonna word it today, because,
I honestly wasn't either.
yeah,
okay,
But
that's just
I'm
thinking
easy, I
ahead,
can
Yeah.
go with the flow.
well, that's good, and we'll have those discussions again,
yeah.
yeah,
so.
it's not gonna change the substance of what actually happens.
No, I
so.
just didn't know if we needed, cause if we're gonna change it, if we needed to change the resolution for that, then that would be the time to look at that.
We will need to update the resolution, but we're not doing that today.
Okay,
Okay, there is a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I already seconded it.
Oh, I didn't know, Kyle, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a second, okay. Any further discussion then?
you know, just one question, so the resolutions get updated before the July 1st meeting?
Yeah,
So if we're going to update them
They'll be updated for the new fiscal year.
for the new fiscal year, so we're kind of more talking about what's going to affect next fiscal year when we meet on July
26/7.
22nd. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
since that was taking effect
right,
Yeah,
July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify it in my brain.
I made the motion, I apologize, is there any thought? Is there any thought that there is an upper limit or should be an upper limit? That's probably illegal, right? So,
I don't know that it's illegal, we had an upper limit before, but it's just,
pointless.
no,
I don't know that,
is he asking if it's illegal to not have an upper limit?
I don't think it's.
Who did, I did,
Is that what
I
you
don't,
were
I
asking?
don't think that's what he's
No,
asking.
no,
Or-
I'm not worried about what was illegal 30 or 10 years ago when he set it up. I'm not asking legalities at all. Is there anybody have any thought that, and I don't, but that you can go too far with this?
I guess in my opinion, for the current rate that's associated,
Don't
I
worry
would
about
say no, but I think that changes depending on where the rest of the conversation goes.
Okay,
I mean,
that's fine. Thanks.
Yep.
yeah, that's just my opinion. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts, but.
So, okay, well, we got motion and a second, and if there's no more discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous. Josh, you wanna call Doug up?
Yeah.
See if my computer works now? Hey.
Hey Doug, it's Josh up here in the boardroom, we are up to Highway 18 detour. Alright, bye.
I'm gonna wait for my coffee.
Okay, here, go ahead.
Here you go, the pictures, did you see that Jeep, that first
Yeah.
picture?
Yeah, I saw that.
You have a Jeep, but it will bottom out.
Well, that one was
They were going for,
airborne, so to speak.
they were going for the commercial. Submit that to Jeep.
They
Yeah.
should've.
They should.
Play it during the Super Bowl next year.
Although, they
Dude,
might not take it because it didn't make it
It
through.
didn't make it there.
I'm saying they were going for that.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh,
Yep,
You know what it was?
Done.
thank you.
They were missing the Confederate flag on the top. They would've gone over it if they had that on top.
And a ramp.
I was on the road Friday after we got that slushy mess too and watched someone spin out right.
good morning again.
Highway 169, end up in a ditch right up just north of Black Cat Creek.
Alright, we are up to discussion decision to approve US 18 east of Algona detour agreement with the Iowa DOT, whenever you are ready, Doug.
Yeah, we have a request from the Iowa Department of Transportation. They would like to use Highway 18 for a detour when they are doing some of their reconstruction work on Highway 18. They make agreements with the county using their average daily traffic and fuel tax. They do reimburse the county. One of the requests is to use P56 beginning at the intersection of 18 and then south a mile to B40 and then east over to Iowa 17. And then there's a second request to use P56, the same P56, beginning at 18 south a mile to B40 and then using P60. Depending on the construction, there'll be a little bit of difference. They're gonna be removing some pipes, and there's gonna be doing some intersection modifications. I would recommend that the board would approve of both of these agreements.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Wactor and a second by Garmin to approve both of those agreements with the Iowa DOT. Any discussion on that?
Just a question.
Yeah.
So I assume P56 is where Gary Erpeling lives out there,
Yeah,
so they actually won't be doing anything with intersections or pipes between Algona and there, probably?
that's the way I understand it, Howard, yes.
Alright,
Or they won't need to close the road completely.
okay.
Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Any work that they do will be,
There's somewhere there's gonna be turning lanes built and stuff, and passing lanes possibly?
correct. I know that, by the biodiesel, that intersection there, they're gonna build a full right turn lane if you're eastbound, so you go south. And I think they're gonna, my understanding is they'll put in a, if you're westbound, there'll be a middle lane for you to get out of traffic, so you can turn left.
They don't anticipate closing the road.
But they must not be closing the road there. I think they're moving the alignment to the north there, so.
Okay.
And then at Sexton, they're redoing that intersection, quite a bit of modification as well. Just moving that north and I think trying to get rid of, that's a bad snow area right in there, so.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. And one thing, I guess too, if public is listening, but, P56 is the road, if you go north, the abate rally, and, the Iowa DOT has been communicating with abate, and I think they have all their plans so that it will not interfere, they will not interfere with that, rally, and that will allow people to go north there, so.
Of course, now, we wouldn't want to interfere with the weekend motorcycle rally, the heck with everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah, priorities.
Thank
Are-
you.
Are they gonna be, they're redoing that turn lane in Sexton then, going south on the P60?
I believe.
They're gonna move that all north.
Move that all
whole
north?
road will be
Okay.
north.
Okay,
So yes, that will be improved.
well, that'll be nice,
So,
yeah, cause you always have to turn a little wide going there to avoid the potholes.
Yeah, that southwest corner of that intersection.
Yep.
When's that gonna start, Doug?
They're letting it in May.
Okay,
Kinda interesting that they're gonna leave the, whatever, 5 mile gap between Sexton
No,
and Wesley, or west side of Wesley where they stopped a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, there's a portion of that is concrete. I don't know what, if they have plans to do that, but they're kind of staging all of this, yeah.
alright, well, if no more discussion, we've got a motion and a second, so. All in favor of approving the agreement to the Iowa DOT, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous.
Alright, Carter, if we could get you to sign those two documents, please.
You bet.
I think my route to work will be changing this summer.
You might wanna just go south,
Yep.
down to McGregor,
I think I will.
and, or you can go north too.
That's a little out of the
Scenic
way,
road.
yeah.
Alright, up to construction in the right of way.
We have no request for construction within the road right away.
Okay, then we'll move on to discussion.
We continue, we have one more project with FEMA to get submitted. I was hoping to get that done last week, but, this blizzard kind of took a little bit of my time. We had to cancel some interviews for the transfer station, and we're in the process of getting those scheduled. Talk a little bit, the board and the foreman got to speak just a little bit about the blizzard that we had, and I think it was Bill, kind of alluded there's good things and there's bad things that happen during all those snows, and especially when there's a blizzard. But, this was an event, one to remember. Everyone should realize Sheriff Fisher, he issued early in the morning, if not the night before, no travel. As the day went on, the DOT changed their status of Highway 169, Highway 9, in Kossuth County and in the adjacent counties, from completely covered with snow to impassable. Yet, for some reason, people tried to travel. And I do have some photographs that I'll talk a little bit about, but there's always good and bad that happen. Some of the good is just a reminder to everybody that these situations can happen. And, it does give our operators the opportunity to get some experience and, knowledge of, and reminders of how to use all of their snow equipment. And, it also reminds us that having good, well-made, equipment is important for this type of stuff. Some of the good things about the storm, and I think Kyle alluded to it, it happened March 5 instead of January 5. So, it could have been a lot worse as far as going on through it. Some of the bad things is just, drivers making poor decisions. Snow removal,
I
it's
make a
hard.
motion to change that.
If you can figure out how to do
That's not
that.
on the agenda.
Chair, point of order.
You know, and snow removal is hard on equipment, and when we have snow removal working overtime, through the whole month of January, every day for employees, it's hard on employees also. And then also, unfortunately, it just shuts down the county. Nothing is operating. There's really no reason for people to even be traveling. So, I did receive some interesting phone calls that I wanna share with the board. One was Wednesday, during the middle of the whole, when it was snowing and blowing. This was not from a 515 area code, but the caller, I believe, was serious and was asking if the county could remove snow from a level B road so he could get his grain out. And I tried not to laugh, I tried to be respectful, but I said, no, we're not even plowing, we're not plowing any roads. I don't know if he knew what was going on. Thursday, the day after, right away, this is one of those calls, one of the foremen asked me to call up a citizen. This citizen was calling a lot of county shops, a lot of foremen's phone numbers. I think he was trying to ask the very same question, trying to get a different answer. But his wife works nights and she had not been home for 2 nights, and he did not understand why an operator couldn't just go down the gravel road to the house that he was at. And I tried to explain to him that everybody who lives on a gravel road would want that same service, and it would be the most inefficient way for us to remove snow. It was a long phone call, because he kept on asking what time, when the plow was gonna be there, and all I could say, the plow will get there when the plow gets there. But it's one of those things, we do receive those types of phone calls, and sometimes people don't like the answers. And then the third phone call that I received, it was from a more of a disgruntled phone call, talking about an operator that was plowing up to his driveway and turning around. This happened to be at a situation where we did have a pickup truck that was stuck in a drift right to the north of the operator's house. The operator lives on a paved road. The operator contacted me on Wednesday. This call was Thursday morning. The operator contacted me, the operator contacted the foreman. We both knew what was going on. He said that he was going to plow to his house, turn around, and come back. The north end of the road was fine, as far as being able to get back to where the area was. He thought that was wrong. I explained to him that the night before I knew there was a truck that was blocking the road and we couldn't plow through it. And I said I need to see what was going on. I called up the foreman. They had just gotten the truck out of the drift, and the operator was heading back to that area to clean it out. And I called this gentleman back. We continued to have a conversation. He asked why no one called him to go down and get the person out. Asked a couple questions like that. told me to just have our equipment, just shove the vehicles into the ditch and keep on going. I tried to say that that's not a good solution. And finally, he said something to the point that this is a bunch of bullshit. And I agreed with him. And I said, it is. When the sheriff has no travel, when the DOT has impassable roads, and people decide to get stuck in the middle of our snow plowing operations, I agree with you. And went on, we had a discussion. We both said goodbye to each other, which I thought was good. But sometimes those are the discussions that the county engineer ends up having with the public. And I think I said something about, you've chewed my ass for a little while now, and he even said, I was frustrated, I needed to chew somebody's ass. So sometimes secondary road employees, foremen, engineer's office, sometimes people just want to chew our rear end just to feel right. So, but we did have numerous vehicles stuck that were in the middle of our snow removal operations on Wednesday. We had a semi-tractor and a trailer north of Laverne. I think that was stuck on Tuesday night around 11 o'clock and stayed there till sometime around 5 o'clock the next day. We had a semi-tractor south of Lakota on P60 that was stuck, that interfered with us. We had a semi-tractor in the bridge on P66, interfered with our operation. We had a pickup truck on P66 north of 370th Street. That was the one where our employee, it was right by his house. We had an SUV on P40 north of Highway 9. And then we had a car out in Hobart. That area drifts in these types of storms, and an area there that car was stuck. I know Sheriff Fisher was out, I know numerous deputies were out. A deputy had the emergency management 4x4 with tracks, bringing people to different locations that Carissa had established the day before, and let us know about it. So I do have some photos that I'd like to share with the board. Quick, if I could. Shut these lights off. Some of these photos I took, some of them were the operators. This happens to be the SUV that was stuck north of Highway 9. Our operator is going south on this pavement, and he almost got over that drift. I don't know how fast he would have been going to hit that drift and get to that point. I should say the driver. I don't know if it was male or female, but that vehicle's stuck, and we can't do too much there.
Lots of footprints.
This is the pickup truck that was stuck near our operator's house. Again, he got into that. This was a male. Go with equal opportunity ripper. So, but our operator couldn't plow through there. The next day, this is what that drift looked like. The operator's house, this is looking north. The operator's house is there on the left. You can see
Is that the Ramsey Church north of Tite? Okay, that's what I thought.
you can see right here, when he plowed, he pushed a hell of a lot of snow into his driveway right there that he had to get after he got done. But, you know, those are pretty deep right there. So. This is, on P66, I think, or no, excuse me, P44, south of the transfer station. This is a poor road. Right here you can see in between the two homes, there's a drift there, and that is always a constant battle. I just happened to be coming back from the transfer station that day, so I took a picture of that. The next picture is on a gravel road. This doesn't seem like it's a big problem right now, but if this would have happened in January, this snow right here, part of it gets pushed to the north and part of it gets pushed to the south. I've seen where the drifts between those two poles were out blowing all the snow to the north there. But this is sometimes how drifting grows in Kossuth County on gravel roads. And this is one drift that was on 260th Street. You can see our operator, that's up to the top of the V-plow there. This particular drift, it took 90 minutes of one operator to complete. He got stuck numerous times, so we had another operator that was at this location for 30 minutes, not taking snow off of his own route, but helping to pull this operator out when he got stuck. So this is a very serious drift. You can see kind of the length of it. He's been working, he pulled back. This is a couple hours later, what it looked like from the east looking west. You can see this drift, and again, as it blows there, if it would be blowing, that drift is just gonna grow. A place where we definitely need a snow blower.
Did we use any of our snow blowers this snow?
No, not that I'm aware of. And then 294 feet later, that's what it looks like looking back east from the west.
Where's that at?
This is on 260th Street, 3 miles, 3¼ miles to the east of the county line.
Okay.
Tim with that Stricker's been site
Oh,
background.
oh, sure, okay.
I'm guessing.
You are correct.
I'm guessing.
Oh, up by
You're
Dan Hansen.
correct.
Yeah.
And then this is up on Highway 9, and the Department of Transportation, they do have their snow blower out. I drove that the next day. Again, it kind of boggles my mind, and I don't know if you visited with Sheriff Fisher, but he was up there. You can almost see where every semi-truck was stuck there. The DOT was forced to go out with their blowers. They had blowers going on the north end of the county, the south end of the county. They had 2 blowers. I don't know if they have those in stock or if they travel. But just to share some photographs with you there. I'm sure if this would have been an event that happened in January, and no thawing would be occurring, we would be out definitely blowing snow at this time with all of our blowers.
Thanks for sharing those.
Sure. I would like to thank the road department, the road crew, the mechanics for all their work. This is one of those that test us. And I think we came out really well. Seems like gravel roads, talking to Bill and Scott yesterday, gravel roads were in good shape, are getting better. And so thank you to the road department. And I am gonna be at ISAC the end of this week. So I'm gonna be gone, and then waste management, I'm preparing for the annual meeting. And also I need to prepare for financial insurance, so I'm doing some work on that.
Do you know when that meeting's gonna be yet?
I do not.
Okay, that's
Have
fine.
not scheduled it yet.
I was gonna say, I did appreciate the communication that you had with us as well. keeping us up to date as to what was going on.
Yep.
I did have a few people call me and ask me, do you have any idea what's going on? And I said, just stay home.
Yeah,
But, I said, you know, I was able to tell them, yeah, no, the snow plows aren't out, and I know it was out there and stuff, but some people just don't pay attention to that, so.
yeah,
So that, yeah, I appreciated that.
good, thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people don't turn their radios on.
Right,
You just
right.
turn your radio on, you're gonna hear it at some point.
Yeah, yeah,
The Iowa DOT, their, that interactive map that they have with 511 is,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it's,
is very informative.
it
Not very
is.
helpful.
It is.
Mhm.
When the state highways are not functioning, there's little use for county road departments to be out, working, so. Anyway, okay, very good, thank you.
And as always, I appreciated the communication. Doug and I got together the day before when we knew the storm was coming and talked to Roger also, and then 5 o'clock that morning, we were all, touch base with Carter, and, you know, we take it seriously when the sheriff says no travel advised, and Doug says I'm not sending the plows out. It was an easy decision to
Yeah.
close the courthouse, not only so our employees are safe, but so we don't have people traveling here to do business when it's not
Right.
safe, so.
Right.
So we appreciate that, as always, Doug.
After courthouse closures, there's usually discussion about compensation. Has the board discussed anything for the people that did work? Like I said, I know there were some sheriff's deputies that were working, the road department was working. Is there any consideration that, given that some employees in the courthouse, I'm making the assumption they're gonna be compensated for that day,
Correct, yes, they are.
somehow providing compensation to the people that did work, some extra compensation to them?
Are you talking in the form of, payment, or are you talking in the form of, time off? Or are you just leaving it open?
You know, I think that, the road department, Martin Luther King holiday, for example, the courthouse is closed and the road department works. However, they're given what is called a floating holiday. I would think that a floating holiday, I mean, that's something,
Yeah,
time off.
that's,
You know, but I don't know if the board has thought about it at all, but I think that to be fair, there should be some sort of compensation. I guess I would like it.
What's the history on that been in the past? I
Was it
believe we closed
2 years ago?
last year or whatever, and I don't think we did
Just
anything. at
storm
that
and-
time.
23rd of December, a couple years ago, that the courthouse got
Yeah.
closed last, I believe.
There's always been discussion, but there's never been any action,
Okay.
There's never been any action.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
and, you know, I guess I do agree with you, I think that that would be a good thing to do. You know, it's kind of like a paid holiday off, you know, even though you're not going anywhere for the employees, but, you know, they stay home and they're paid for that day. So the people that work, I think that it would honestly be fair to do a floating holiday. Is it something we should add to the agenda?
I think that would be
Well,
good.
it'd have to be on the agenda,
Yes,
so, yeah.
of course, so, I mean, I think that we should talk about that. I do.
Yeah. How does that normally work then? Would that, I mean, being the road department with the union contract and how that's all set up with, are they paid overtime during those hours because the courthouse was deemed closed, or how does that work for compensation?
The secondary road collective bargaining unit does not address anything like that.
Okay,
That is
discretionary
Those-
or,
those employees were supposed to be at work, at 7:30. Having said that, I know there are employees that did not make it to work at 7:30. However, all employees employees did get to their roads when we started at 1:15. There were a couple that showed up 15 minutes later than that. I don't know the specifics about it all.
Sure. I guess what I'm asking is, was secondary road paid for that day? Their regular, I'm assuming, yeah, okay,
Absolutely,
okay.
yes.
I mean, with the union agreement and all that, we may be opening up a can of worms there too.
But we can certainly discuss it if you'd like on the agenda, Amber, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like to, have it on the agenda, because I don't know why it's a can of worms, it's simply, a day off for the people that went out there and were on the roads and working, and the rest didn't have to.
Custodians were, I forgot to mention that, I know custodians were up there working as well.
Yeah. So I don't think it opens up a can of worms. We're not taking something away. If we take something away, we're opening up a can of worms. We give them something, you know, a little extra just to be appreciative. It's definitely not a can of worms, and not in my view anyway. So,
What do you do when, you start at 5 o'clock the next day? Do you go home early that day, or do you stay out there as long as you need to, or?
Depending on what the storm is, there are days where you work 5 o'clock till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And then you comp time that, or what do you do?
No,
there?
overtime pay. Well, employees on the secondary road department can accumulate comp time if they wish, up to 42 hours per year. After that, then they do get overtime pay. And we do have some employees that just take overtime pay as an option.
Never, yeah.
So somehow they're compensated for it, yes.
Carry that one step further, but if you came in at 5 and everything was cleared out by 2 or 3, would you go home early?
Actually, Friday, we had planned on coming in early because we wanted to get on gravel roads and get things winged back. Now, this is how all the plans go. We had everybody coming in at 6:30, and then we got a couple inches of snow that we needed to get removed, slushy snow. But we were planning on the hours there, 6:30 to 3, so it would be 8 hours. So there are times where we wanna work an 8-hour day, but we adjust the time that we're working.
So is that what actually happened on Friday, or did you adjust, you said plans changed or something?
Well, I think we ended up working until, there were a few guys that had to work a little bit later.
Okay.
We needed to get pavements and we needed to get on some gravels to get snow winged off, so if there was thawing over the weekend, they'd have an opportunity to get to the ditch, road ditch, and things drained, so. For the most part, guys came in early, we called them in to come in early, and I think we had plows on the road at 5:45, somewhere in there, so. And then they worked till 3:30. Well, I think that everybody would appreciate some discussion there. And I know it's been discussed a lot in the past when the courthouse closes. But in fairness, there are people that were working and others were compensated and they were not working. Did you have a question, Howard?
Yeah.
You put that on the agenda. Were you right?
Oh, yeah, you gotta get me with the questions there. So how soon I hope that the road workers didn't even try to go in at 5 and 6 in the morning on Wednesday. How soon did you call them off or not go in, or?
5 o'clock.
They knew
We
that
had some guys that were at the shops at 5, cause they
We're
were close and they were able to get there. Our foreman came in at 4. I called them, I was awake at 4, one called me up and said, don't go to the courthouse. And I do have a police scanner that, I was listening to when people were getting stuck on McGregor, just McGregor and whatever road intersection. So I waited a little while till daylight to come to the courthouse. But, and the city plows actually had gotten a couple lanes, a single lane through most of the roads, so once you got to the road, you were able, in town, to be able to get somewhere. But out in the county, there was just visibility, there was no visibility,
Yes.
so.
My wife wanted to get to the nursing home, so but that wasn't till 80 then.
Yeah.
And I was surprised how good the roads were in town, that, well, not good, but very certainly passable.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else for Doug or vice versa?
So that will be on the agenda for next week then?
That's what I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Doug?
I do not have anything else.
Okay, well, appreciate it and enjoy
Thank
ISAC.
you.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, we have a call with Palo Alto County Board about PAC 1 at 9:15, so we could do auditor and board discussion real quick.
Okay, so, I also will be at ISAC Thursday and Friday. We've been busy this last week getting the budget finished up. We, got everything entered in the Department of Management. Budget is done, got everything sent to the printer, got all of our proofs done, and our tax statements should be mailed out shortly, so, that process is going. The tax notice of public hearing for the tax levy will be published in tomorrow's paper in Bancroft and Sioux City and Thursday's paper in Algona. And then of course, our hearing will be the 25th. I think that's about everything I have.
And you satisfied of it?
Yes, I had a nice visit with Evan Deal on Friday. He came and he's working down at the Capitol with one of the representatives on how counties can cut back on their budgets, or why most counties are seeing a large increase in their budgets over like the last couple of years. So he had some good questions about what some of those things mean. I was able to go through the budget with him and answer some questions that he had, and had a very good conversation, and he was able to take some information back with him, and then encouraged us, if we have any questions or concerns, to reach out to him, and he'd be happy to share those concerns with legislators down at the Hill. So it was very, very nice to meet with him, very nice young man.
Yeah, he'd be a good point of contact for legislative
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
at the moment. Okay, light agenda, big agenda next week?
I don't even know if we have anything on yet for
Okay,
the next week.
So,
Let me see what
light
we
at this
have.
point, to be determined?
Oh, we have a 10 o'clock public hearing for DD 60 sub 4 improvement. And then noxious weed spraying, and then discussion, to answer any questions on the urban renewal, Buffalo Township
Oh,
urban renewal.
Okay,
too.
yep.
We did get that scheduled.
For next week
Do we get in contact with them?
with,
Heidi or Ann
who do you want me to,
I was going to, ask that too, I was gonna do it during board discussion, but it's okay, let's talk about it now.
yeah,
Because I can definitely reach out and ask my questions, but I do think it's something that the whole board needs to hear, and I think it's also something, that the public needs to hear, since those questions have been, asked. And so, what would be the best route?
Well, I think you're not looking to ask us questions, you're looking to ask the people who know the ins and
I am
outs of
looking
it.
to ask some questions, but I wanna
Right.
know who the proper people are, because like one of the questions, and I don't think, if we have the attorney, which was
Right.
Dorsey Whitney,
Right,
how are they gonna tell me why we didn't use NIACOG? To get any advice on that? Like, they're not going to be able to answer that question.
I
No,
guess-
that's the question you
Yeah,
guys will have to
no
answer.
one from the board
Right.
brought that up at all. We talked about that we had used them as attorneys for the other, revisions, and we were just gonna stick with them for continuing stuff with Dorsey, so I guess it was never brought up at all in discussion, we could look back on the videos from all that, but NIACOG.
yeah, that was the first I'd heard of
never
it,
really
I didn't
brought
even know they were involved in that way.
I knew they were in the original stuff, but I didn't.
And the amendment. The original and the amendment, and they were pretty key in, making sure that, everything was covered for us. There was lots of discussions. So, I guess, I don't know how to go forward with that, but you can't go back and do it, but
So can we get a hold of somebody
Yep,
to,
just tell me who.
just tell family who, I guess, for, I mean, or I guess, do you have any questions that you'd like to have a board conversation with the attorney? That's,
well, I'll just put it out there, one of my questions, if now's an okay time to at least tell you what one of my questions is. I had a conversation with the city because I wanted to know what they had to do in addition, for this to be a project. All they had to do is say it was okay for the board to use this as a project. What I can't wrap my brain around is how a project in the city can be paid for with urban renewal dollars, because those are rural dollars. So whether it's an outside loan, which is what I understand you guys have said it has to be, if it is an outside loan, that outside loan, how it's going to get paid back with is those TIF dollars, is what I've been told. How is that okay?
I had the same exact question and concern. And when we were on the phone with Dorsey and Whitney and the attorneys, they kind of felt like laughed at my question, thought it was, a silly question, that there was no concerns whatsoever that could be done. I mean, they were pretty much saying that I shouldn't have any concerns about that and it could be used. So I remember that very vividly, that I had that same question.
Okay, I guess, and that's where I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't understand. And that's the question that I'm being asked by people. How can rural dollars be used for a project in the city?
Mhm.
And I still have that question, whether they laugh at me or not, I'm questioning it.
Yeah, so that is a question for the attorneys, because they are the ones that said that can be
Yeah.
done.
I don't wanna hear, well, it can be. No, I want an explanation, I want something showing me that, yes, it can be. I don't want to, down the road, if we do a revenue bond or whatever it is for this, I don't want to then be told, sorry, that's not okay. I don't want gray area. I want it black and white. This is dealing with property tax dollars. This is important to me, that this is accurate. And I just think every time something gets pushed through in a hurry, there is something that is lacking, and I am concerned about it. So I don't want, if the attorneys, if we're gonna pay these attorneys to be on the phone, I don't want gray area. I want an answer in black and white. That's my main question.
okay? Well, yeah, like we're talking, that's a question for the attorney to answer. So if we can get a hold of our attorney through Dorsey and
Mhm.
see what their schedule's like.
Okay,
Change the subject, that mailing that goes out, that postcard, is there any time constraints too early versus, I know there's probably a late one, but can you mail it too early or doesn't matter?
it has to be out by the 15th or 20th. But, no, as long as all of the cities and,
Cool.
county has their information in the Department of Management, which they all did by March 5th, then we
We
could
go
send
out
it to the
anytime.
printer, yeah.
Does anybody need a quick break before drainage?
Sure.
Alright, why don't we take that and we'll come back and do drainage and then we'll finish with board discussion.
Are we able to do that reclass report? Tyler's here.
Oh,
Didn't know.
oh yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I forgot Tyler was here.
No worries,
Couldn't see
sorry, I
him.
sat right with the pillar between us.
Yeah, yeah.
I do think I could, just real quick, in the 5 minutes before your call.
Sure.
Get this in. This is for the reclassification of benefits for, the 60/4, both the project and then the laterals as well. I've got the two hard copies there. I wasn't really planning on projecting anything now, far more information at the public hearing on this with, how this is done. But, put very quickly, this is the document that myself and the two commissioners have put forward for a recommendation for how to split the benefits and the cost for the main tile improvement project, as well as the additional laterals within the district. Though those are just in here as examples at this time. The only one that has an actual firm recommendation for dollar amounts is on the main tile. How this was done, it's a factor of elevation information and soils characteristics that we use 5 factors, that being how much of the facility is used, the proximity to the facility, the area draining to that tile, what the land is being used for, and how wet that ground is. The code lays out only that classifications be done in a fair and equitable manner. The reason we've chosen the one that we have is because it's not subjective. It's all mathematically based on distance, elevations, and soils that are present. That being said, we don't know any other bits of information such as private tile, where people have waters that may be coming into or out of the district. So that's important during the notice period, that if landowners have additional things to consider, that they get that information in to us or to the trustees. And this is the commissioner's report as a suggestion to the trustees. The trustees do, by code, have final say on how this gets distributed and established. So, with that, I guess the only other thing really of note is that the main tile schedule, for the sake of being a rounded off number, we have put on there the recommendation for assessment of $2.9 million. The estimate on the project for this size was 4.4 million. So quite a bit of, between the plastic and bids received and everything, quite a bit lower actually than what landowners were anticipating. So, and one last thing too, before considerations for date and time for the hearing for this. The O'Vality reports came back on the review of this system as well. Nothing out of compliance. The most it could deflect was 5%. There was one segment, 120-foot segment, that deflected to 4.5%. Everything else was right around 2 or none at all. So really happy with the performance, how the project turned out, everything involved with it. So with that, I think I got it all in. If we've got a consideration, notices will have to be sent and published, for the hearing, and then I believe, I think it follows the same as district establishment of the, sorry, Tammy, I should've looked this up, do you know off the top of your head if it's 40 or 20 days?
I do not know, but Marge would know.
Okay. For sake of setting that date. And I could look that up if you need to get to that call and.
Yeah, if we
Reconvene on-
just have a date and time to set, that's easy to do.
Or I could run, while you're on the call at 9:15, I could go discuss with Marge
Sure.
some potential
Yeah,
dates and just,
why don't we do that?
and come back.
Cause it is 9:15,
Okay.
so thanks Tyler.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, you're good, you're good.
There's not Marge on me.
Oh, yeah, Marge should be here anyway.
Welcome to AT&T's teleconference service. Please enter your access code, followed by the pound sign. To join the conference as the host, press star. Otherwise, please enter your host password, followed by the pound sign. There are 1 participants on the call, including you. You are joining your conference as the host. For a menu of available commands, press star pound.
One including us,
Yeah,
so they're not.
They're not on yet.
We need to have Aaron look at that, it's been pretty fuzzy the last couple of times we used it.
Yeah, it really has been fuzzy.
Okay, well, they were gonna do that call
Yeah, we're on the conference.
Oh, you are, good, 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 good.
Yep.
Do you guys have a date, cause they're not.
Are
on
we
yet.
supposed to call them,
I think,
or are they calling us?
It's the Palo Alto call, or line.
Oh,
So we're supposed to call them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a date though?
it would be, it's, 40 days with the notices going out at least 20 days, so that puts us then at the end of April. Marge and I just said we were, I think tentatively like the 29th,
Okay,
if that's deep enough into April that we think.
cause that would be for.
Welcome to the conference center.
Can we do
Please
that
enter the
later,
conference
after
ID,
planting
followed.
season?
We could, I mean, there's no,
Please enter the conference
Is there any
password,
rush?
followed by the pound sign.
we could go the 5th or even the 12th, or the
Sixth.
6th of the 13th of May.
Good morning.
good morning.
Just think about it.
We just tell them we have a full
Oh.
board.
Good morning, can you hear us?
Yes, and Colin is on the line also.
Okay, we have our full board and our auditor and a couple,
Drainage clerk.
Marge.
our drainage clerk, Marge, and a couple members of the public.
All right, we have, all the board members, Roger Bolstick is absent.
Okay,
And then myself, the auditor, Carmen, and Jordan, the drainage clerk.
very good.
So, you guys are the controls, you can go ahead.
We're ready to proceed.
Well, we're ready to proceed.
Colin.
Yep,
Yeah, so just, I don't know, I wish we didn't have to have this discussion about archaeological assessments. But, you know, we knew we were gonna need an individual permit through the Army Corps. And it's, I don't know, even that's kinda ridiculous to me, once you go over 2,000 feet of linear feet of riprap on a ditch bank, you can't use a regional or nationwide permit anymore, which those are, it's still a permit, but it's more of a streamlined process. And if you can't do one of those, a general permit, and you have to get an individual permit, there's a lot more monkey business involved. But even with that being said, I didn't expect that they were gonna come back and say that we needed archaeological review for this project. And I'm not an expert on that, but my understanding is that their concern is if we're gonna be digging, and, you know, uncover some historical artifacts or affect some historical landmark or site. Typically, that's not an issue if you're talking about areas that you previously disturbed or, you know, dug in. They're more worried about, if you're disturbing new areas that maybe haven't been previously disturbed, you know, you could run into something. And that's right there why I did not expect that they would be requiring this, because after all, we're talking about a man-made, constructed, open ditch, pipes that obviously if we're replacing pipes or doing anything with that, those were put in, and so that's all previously disturbed areas. So in any case, it's frustrating that we are in this position that we have to do this, but now you know, we have to do these phase 1A archaeological assessments. So what they call that is like a desktop assessment. And so you do have to hire an archaeologist. They must have some certification or something, or licensure. And they look at literature and things like that, and it doesn't involve, at least in this step, physically visiting the site. And if they conclude in that assessment that there's no concern, then that's it, you're done. If they find something that they're concerned about, then they potentially would have to do, you know, visit the site. So we reached out to 4 different archaeological firms that do this sort of work. We got 2 quotes back. Bear Creek Archaeology from Cresco, Iowa, their quote was $2,740 for these assessments for this project, and their timeline was basically within a month. We had another quote from an outfit out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. That was $3,570 in a 2 to 4 week time period. So I guess before I go any further, are there any questions or comments from any of the board members on archaeological stuff?
I'll toss one out at you, Colin. I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but do you think the reason they're asking for this is because the ditch was already repaired back to its original conditions and now we've got washouts that we lost soil outside of that previous excavated ditch, or do you have any insight as to why this would be required now?
Yeah, right. You know, I didn't get a clear answer on that. Sometimes I hate to probe around too much, but that was my speculation as well. The thing that bothered me is that they took, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks they warned me that this was a possibility, and they said, well, we're gonna sit down with the Army Corps of Geologists and talk about it and let you know. And then they came back and said, it's too hard to figure out on each individual site, we're just gonna ask for this on all of them. Well, that ticked me off, because in particular, we have some pipes and things that, well, I mean, we're not even digging. There's some that the ends were crushed and they stick out far enough into the ditch that I'm comfortable just cutting off the crushed end and leaving it. And they were not make any sense anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I guess that's the answer, I don't really know for sure. They did say they thought there was low potential that there'd be any issues, but I'll be honest with you, I think the reason is because when it gets into federal hands, and it's not just the Army Corps that's gonna end up looking at it, they have to coordinate with other stuff like SHPO and things I don't know much about, but I think they start getting worried about, oh, it's in our hands, we better just do it, that way we're covered. And that affects us and our project, but it's frustrating, but I think that's their line of thinking.
Yeah, I can see that.
But even, I get that more so when we're getting money from them, like if they're giving us a dime, they wanna make sure there's, that money's not tarnished and there's no problems with anything. But that's not the case here, they're not giving us any money. But anyways, it's frustrating, but I don't see any way around it. I did tell Ray, I argued with them about the pipe stuff, and they said, well, okay, we can see your point, it still needs to be covered in the report, but you can just give an explanation like what you said. So this archaeological firm for the pipes, they'll just give kind of a blanket explanation that like, well, the pipe this area was previously disturbed, so there's some concern there. So that at least helps. I think that brought the cost estimate down because they didn't they can handle the pipe repair site fairly easily. So anyways, I don't wanna just keep harping on and on about it. I guess my recommendation is to have this Bear Creek archaeology do the desktop archaeological assessments for the $2,740, and then go from there. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that, we had the hearing to decide to move forward with repairs to the severe damages on the ditch, like 4 months ago almost. And I would have liked to get that stuff out to bid fairly quickly, but I couldn't apply for this permit until I knew what we were gonna do. If you remember, we had several quite different options, and so I couldn't really apply for the permit until we knew what we were gonna do. So I did that same day that we had approval, but, it takes time. And I didn't want there to be this big uncertainty about if and when we're gonna get this permit, and that affecting bids and what have you. We're now in March, and it takes time to put stuff out to bid. We've got the stuff ready, but you still have to give the contractors a few weeks to look at the stuff. And we're quickly approaching construction season here. We've got this archaeological assessment stuff that's gonna happen. We don't know what they're gonna come back with for sure. I think we're all hopeful that there's gonna be no issues and that'll be the end of it. But we don't know that for certain. So there's still some uncertainty about when we might be seeing that permit. And I guess my question, just something for discussion is, as far as the bidding, we could just say, all right, we can't wait any longer. We need to put this out for bid, so we'll just have to let the contractors know that, we don't know for sure if the permit's gonna be issued and it can't start until after the permit's issued. And that could affect bid prices, I can't say for certain. The other option would be to wait until this archaeological assessment is done, and if there's no issues with that, we can be fairly confident that there's not gonna be much more hangups with the permit, and then put it out for bid then. I think the third option is we just wait till we get the permit, which that could be, maybe it could be June or something, and then put it out for bid. There's a lot to think about with all those options. I at least want to give, the joint board an opportunity to have some input on, what direction maybe we go from here. So what are the thoughts on that?
Well, me, over here with one of the ditches we did, went through the casino, and we are I think the board is very conservative. I think we'd go with option 3 and just have to wait. I'm sorry, I think what they're doing is they happen to run into a Indian burial ground or something, but that's not gonna happen if we've already been, digging there already, but that's what they're worried about. So, I think just so there isn't any surprises, if we approve it and then this comes back, we can't do anything, then we got a problem.
Yeah, and
I agree.
I was gonna kinda echo that same sentiment, and you just said it first, so appreciate that, but I would say the same thing. I mean, if we put it out for bids, one, how do you kinda write that out in the specs and explain it to contractors, and then does one contractor put more weight into it than the other, and how does that affect bid prices? And I think it's just a lot of uncertainty when we're asking for a certain price. So I would agree. I think a lot of moving parts and variables, that waiting is probably the cleaner option.
Okay, and if that's fine. I think if a clarifying question maybe on my end is, if the archaeological assessments come back and they don't see any problems, maybe we can revisit this. I don't foresee any other major hurdles. It should be from that point pretty straightforward. So maybe that's something but at that point, if it's gonna be at least another month from today, it'll be April. And then even if we put it out, we could put it out in mid-April. And then it'd be into May by the time we'd be opening bids. I don't know. I guess it doesn't hurt anything as long as we're on the same page to just say, let's at least wait until after those archaeological assessments are done. We can wait, we could wait until the permit is finally issued, and again, that could be like June. But we don't know that. But at least, to me, that does make sense to wait until we've got the archaeological stuff done, to make sure there's not gonna be some major hang-ups.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you. I'd say we wait till that for sure, but even putting it out for bid in April or May, if we don't have the full permit back, I mean, I think it's maybe less risky, but still a risk we're probably gonna need to talk about and weigh once we have those results back.
Yeah.
Colin, go ahead, Ron.
I wanted to just I moved up to go ahead and do just what you said, wait till we get back from there, and then we'll probably have to have another meeting. See if we get it back, but then we'll have another meeting and try to get the options lined up to get it out in April.
Ron Grettinger made that motion.
Is that just for, waiting on the timeline, or do you wanna include the,
You wanna do the archaeology?
with
We got
that?
to the archaeologist, and after that's done, then we'll go ahead and.
He's making a motion to approve the archaeological assessment for
Okay.
2740 to Bear Creek.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, this is Stacker and Kossuth, I'll second that.
All in favor here?
All in favor here?
All ayes here.
Aye.
Aye.
All eyes here.
And then, yeah, we can address the rest once we get the results back from that, so.
Right, and once we get the results back, I'll talk with the Corps and just see, is there anything else that could possibly hang this up? And that'll help us to, have some more confidence in where to go from there, so, okay,
Alright,
thanks, everybody.
thanks Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
Bye.
Bye, have a good day.
You too.
You too.
Okay. Go back to the reclass,
Yeah,
Tyler.
so it does, I had a chance to look it up, it does, the notice follows the original establishment, which would be at least 40 days from the filing of the report, with the notices going out at least 20 days prior to that hearing.
So 40 days puts us where?
That would put us,
To
I think the 29th of April would be the
earliest meeting.
the earliest we could have it. That is, I don't know, I like to kind of avoid April at all costs. But I do also wanna make sure that it's in with enough time for, the auditor's office to make the assessments and have them go out. So I guess I'll defer then if there's any, that's the biggest rush we're in
Yeah.
for not pushing it further back.
Yeah, and I was kinda thinking about that too, I mean, I don't think April and May are ideal for planting season, but for having that in and having that conversation before we set assessments, that's probably what we have to do,
Right.
so. Do we know of anything else on the schedule for April 29th?
Nope.
Okay, would it be possible to do it at 8 o'clock right away instead of 10? I think mid-morning just kinda kills the whole morning, especially for people to be driving almost an hour to get here.
Yeah, I don't
and
have any
get
problem.
back if they have other things to work on.
Sure.
Okay, well, I guess then I'd make a motion to do it April 29th at 8 AM here in the boardroom.
There's a motion by Stecker. I'll second it. Any discussion on setting the date and time? For April 29th at 8:00 AM.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask some questions about that, following up on what Kyle said, so what's the hurry here to get this done on April 29th is so we can get on some assessments or?
It's so that when the assessments are set, the actual assessments go out with the taxes, but when the assessments are
Voted on by the board.
motioned for is sooner than that, that's typically
May.
in May is when those get set. So even though we have time before they go out on taxes, because those are set earlier, whatever schedule was gonna be used would need to be in place before those levies were set.
So what's that mean, to explain that all, when does it have to be done by?
Do you have a,
Middle of May at the latest, probably.
I just, when Summit scheduled a meeting for, the original meeting in Lakota for September 23rd, I'm making up the date, but it's close. And it was in Lakota instead of down here, it's like, you don't want people to come to the meeting, and now you're scheduling a meeting for people from up there to come down here, and when very much it possible, it could rain a foot on the 28th and it's not an issue, but if you can't do anything, you can't do anything, I appreciate that, if that's what it's gotta be, but.
and the thing too is, I understand the time frame of it. We aren't, however, not that Summit was trying to hide anything, I get what that looks like.
I think they were.
Well,
Say that out loud.
for what we're doing
Not the
here,
only one that's.
everyone that's noticed, every one of these schedules goes out to them.
Yeah,
So they will have it for at least 20 days
ahead of time.
It gets published, all the schedules we don't have to publish the schedules anymore, right? But it does get published in the paper so that people see it. They have the chance to file their objections, have conversations
You don't
beforehand.
have to be here.
They don't have to be here, they can file those objections,
And, yeah, and the other piece of that, I mean, just like if you look at the project as a whole, I mean, your completion hearing is probably gonna be where more of that in-person discussion is gonna take place, because that's when you're talking about crop damages and how many acres they had, or what yield, or dollars you're figuring. You're talking more, individual specific information. This is obviously individual specific information for their bill, but I mean, as Tyler's talked about on this reclass and any other, it's all numbers driven, and, I guess, there's a lot less
Yep.
controversy
Sure.
with that typically,
Well, it doesn't sound like there's any options, as much as you don't like it,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is.
right, I mean, and that's, you really could do the assessments at any time, but I don't wanna mess with timeframes, and you avoid additional interest on everything, and it's really just kind of even though and now it's at kind of the end of April, which is better than trying to do it right away, earlier, or even in the mid, and I understand, the time frame, but it does just kind of get everything buttoned up and done, so.
yeah.
So the original point of this reclassification was what?
Reclasses are required on improvement projects, so
Okay.
it's a code requirement. I don't know if you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, the code.
I just wanna understand.
Yeah, absolutely. The code does state for improvement projects that the original assessment on this, I believe, was done when the district was originally established. So it was already 100 years old, and anywhere that work was done on any of those lateral facilities, everyone in the district paid for it.
Right.
And that's something something the code calls out as a big inequity, because if you're not using it, you shouldn't be paying for it. Or really, if you don't have access to it, you shouldn't be paying for it, because people do pay for the convenience of the access, even if they're not using it. That's something that's done with these. But more specifically to improvements, the code recognizes that with an improvement or a massive change to a facility, you have inherently changed how people in the district benefit from that facility, and it warrants revisiting by the engineer and the two commissioners, which are disinterested landowners within the county. In this case, it
So it in
was-
essence kind of puts us in its own little, I
this
shouldn't say little.
Well,
This
Own
lays
area.
out, right, this lays out,
it separates out the benefits for
Right.
each landowner.
and what every piece of ground would be responsible for as, the commissioners, myself, Ken Lubenthal and Jay Goshi. We went over these numbers, we looked at all the factors used, discussed all of this, and have placed forward this as our recommendation for how to pay for that project that just got done.
Okay. And, okay,
You
very
said
good.
those commissioners do not own land in that district.
They do not, they cannot, we've actually signed and turned into the auditor's office an oath that we are disinterested, we don't own ground there, we're not related to anyone that owns ground there.
And you've used this system in the past of.
Yes, this is, in my career, it's the the only one I've known, the only one we've implemented, and for my opinion, it's the best, it's really the only method that I would consider, because it doesn't have any of my subjectivity in it. If all of this was removed and I started over with that same information, the same inputs, we'd get the exact same numbers, because it's driven off of elevation data and your soils, and that doesn't change, so the answers here don't change. Yeah, absolutely, and I go through in significantly more detail with maps and color-coded charts and display all of that with the landowners at the time of the hearing. We go through, we look at every one of the factors, how they play together, where these numbers come from.
You talking about the hearing on the 29th?
Yes.
Which they won't be at.
Well, we hope they're at.
But if they want them to look at it ahead of time?
Absolutely, yes, and our doors are always open to people. The thing I'm hesitant of is sending things out without the context or the explanation. One of the things that the code does say is required in a reclassification report is the column or the percent class that we show on these schedules. Anytime that people see that percent, it can be very scary because they think that that's the percent of the total project that they pay. It's not. Classification is a comparison to the parcel that benefits the most. We as commissioners make a determination of who benefits the most. Everyone's class is their benefit divided by the highest benefit times 100%. So if you have a classification of 50%, you're not paying 50% of the project, you're paying 50% of what the highest parcel pays. That's something that the code requires we contain, even though it's kind of an archaic way of doing it. That's why we also include on the schedules the ratio to total cost. That is your actual percentage of the total project. And that's the one that at the end of the schedules sums up to 100%, because that is how all the parcels benefit as a percentage.
So what all goes out to these landowners?
A notice of the time, place that they can object, and every one of these schedules.
Okay, they do get the schedule. Okay.
Yep, those are all contained within the notice. We take all of the maps out when it goes out to the landowners, but the schedules are all included, and it tells them that they can contact the auditor's office for the whole report
And there's
itself.
there's a very high likelihood that if you're a landowner in the district, you probably know where the tiles or the laterals are, so the maps are,
Oh, yeah, but like for these, I was just wondering, so this assessment dollar amount is what's projected for that individual?
Yes,
to-
yes, on the main tile, the one that, the schedule that sums to that 2.9 million per parcel, that is what their projected payment is. We took the warrants, calc the interest out to when the assessments would go out in, with the property taxes, and included some assumptions for damages, and a little bit of buffer just for what time remains, and that's what, then when we rounded it up, that's the value that we came up with.
so
Okay,
that figures
just-
your construction, engineering, publication,
It's
all of the
Interest.
interest, everything is.
That is that number.
That's what I thought.
Yep, so then the goal is, when it's all said and done, you levy 98% of that number, or 101% of that number, or that number itself,
Well,
so that's.
even that number itself being mailed out, people could add up their own parcels and say, this is probably gonna be my bill,
Right.
pretty close.
Oh, yeah, it's better than ballpark, I mean, it's.
It's very close.
Right.
Yeah.
So this first step, at that reclassification hearing, that's when, or this is the first step to set that date. The next step is for us to approve this after the public hearing.
Correct.
Well, I'm a little bit leery with an 8 AM timeframe when we're dealing with a $2.9 million project in
What part of the timeframe would?
meaning 8 AM in the morning.
I
Any people not being able to
You think
get
it's
here?
too early?
Well, I just, this is, I don't know, my first thought is, maybe? Too early?
We're gonna be here for a regular meeting at 8 o'clock.
No, us, I'm talking about these people,
Oh, if
that
you
they,
look at a farmer that's trying to get to the field, they're probably, chances of showing up to an 8 o'clock meeting are much better than a 10 o'clock meeting, in my opinion. So they can get here, see it, have their conversation, and get home before the whole day is gone.
well, I agree with that part of it. I just, whatever you guys decide, big project.
Yeah, I mean, this has been in the works for, what, probably a year and a half?
Yeah, that doesn't mean all these people know about it.
is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the physical construction is already done, yeah.
The project is done.
Correct.
We haven't had the completion hearing yet, but
Completion hearing is next week.
It's in the ground though.
Yeah, it's in the ground, it's been,
So this is
Reviewed,
just
it's-
strictly to say that this is what you owe.
this is what you're owing and what it's based off of.
Okay, so nothing else.
There's no real decision of, do we do it or not, that's,
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah.
Well,
That- No, and I don't say
I'm
that
just
to be,
trying to
I don't say
figure
that
out-
to be funny either.
No, I wanna, is there something that you have like I don't even know how to ask this, not just for this project, but like, how things work. Okay, in a big project, this is the
You got a
first step,
flow
this,
chart.
a flow
Yep.
chart, is there,
Yep.
can I get something like that, so
It-
I'm just trying to clear
it'd
everything in
probably
my
be good
mind.
to have one hanging here
Yep.
in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, I can get, I think we still have some laminated ones, elsewise I can certainly get more of them. But yeah, we have a whole flow chart of how the process works and what steps lead to
And
what.
that includes some code references, doesn't it?
Yep, yeah, they're all segments pulled straight from the code and what code sections they reference. So it's
Right,
it's how to navigate 468.
Yeah,
well, yeah, and I mean, I'm asking questions, cause it's how I need to understand it, and I don't ever perceive anything as a stupid question, so.
No, and it certainly isn't,
I'm
and,
trying to understand it because obviously I have a lot of drainage in my district and I wanna understand
The-
it better for future.
the thing about these, and that's been discussed the whole time with landowners, is that it isn't strictly a per acre cost. We haven't just taken the acres and divided it,
No, I
or we haven't taken
understand.
the cost and divided by, and,
I understand the point of reclassification.
Okay.
I do, and the benefited acres, I get all of that. I'm just trying to understand the time frame and the flow chart.
right.
How
This-
everything starts and how it ends up, that's.
yeah, when you were asking that, I thought of that right away, cause
Yeah.
I've seen that, I mean, that's kind of been a work in progress for what, the last 3 years probably?
Or
I
more,
mean,
yeah,
it's
it's-
been updated over the time, but I mean, when the code changed and there's a different threshold for repairs, I mean, we had talked about that and I knew you guys had updated your chart and stuff, but I've had multiple versions of that at home that.
Yeah,
that
and
copy,
it's nice, I'll
Right.
make sure everyone,
I mean, the reclassification is a fair way of doing it, it's, based
It is.
upon benefit, so I get that part, I'm just,
and that would essentially, between the completion hearing next week, that finishes up the contractor's portion of it, and starts the year maintenance period. This puts a nice bow on everything for the landowner's portion of coming in here and
yeah,
having discussions about it, and then it enters into the, if people defer, how they make payments, that's just up to them, but it-
And, yeah, and not to harp on it, but I mean, the calculation of interest is one of the things that we've talked about in this boardroom for other things, and I knew that was included, I knew you got the, warrants that have already been issued, so with that being included, we can, all of the project costs being included, we can confidently say that this is gonna be your total and it's one bill, and you can choose to do waivers or not, but it's
And we
Yeah,
decide that at the, when we do the assessments?
assessment schedule,
decide
and
waivers.
that's where this is, no, waivers has already been decided at the public hearing, they have the
Okay.
option for waivers.
They have that option.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this again is the interest up until those assessments. If people go on to the waivers, that would be
That's calculated separately with the.
correct.
But what we have to set with the ballpark May timeframe is the dollars that get assessed, and that's where this is leading up to that decision and,
Okay.
having the information prepared and giving the landowners the information of this is likely what's going to be hitting your mailbox, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Surely this flow chart would help right now, but how did we get to this point? It just, we're following kind of a set schedule, and this is just how long it takes, and
Yep.
there was no delays or anything.
No, there was,
Couldn't have been doing this 2 months ago.
not really, I mean, it follows, we don't do this until the project is all fully done, because the project being fully done dictates where this goes, and the project wasn't, it was substantially complete last winter, but it hadn't
The
been.
final bills being paid and stuff.
Right, there wasn't the finals until, so while I would have liked maybe a little sooner, it's not. We wouldn't have been able to accelerate it back to have missed April entirely.
Okay. It's fine, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe a 30-second version of how we got here, so you got a petition that was filed from landowners that requested the improvement, there was actually quite a large number that requested it, so it was a well-supported petition.
Well, you can start with when they get done with the dirt, cause that's when you start the reclassification, right?
No, well, I'm talking the project as a whole.
Okay.
So like, you start with the petition, then that was sent to Bolton and Mink as an engineering firm to do their engineering. They prepared a report, brought that back to us, we scheduled a public hearing, had the public hearing, we talked about our, options of size, material, all that stuff, made a decision to move forward with the project. Contract documents were prepared, all that sort of stuff. Contract was obviously entered into, the work was done. Now we're on the phase of the completion hearing, which is next week, and the reclassification, which we're talking about setting right now, which, as, Tyler kinda said, wraps a bow on it, ties up all the paperwork at the end of all the things that have happened already.
And you are right that because everything is determined based on facility length and location, until that's actually in the ground where it is, it would be irresponsible for us to do anything that may change, right? Cause we're looking into the crystal ball, so to speak.
Even if you added 100 feet at the end of the pipe, just for X, Y, Z reason, that would affect everything.
It changes.
So then time frame for all this, like when did this petition get?
I bet probably a year and a half,
Uh,
2 years ago maybe?
I was gonna say, if 2023 would have been when it got started. Something of this magnitude takes that amount of time.
Yep.
It's.
Exactly, hence why I was asking these questions, to
Yep.
try and understand how we got to this point.
Yep, which, I don't remember when we had the bid letting and stuff, but basically they had all of this, like, crop season for actual construction, so like,
Yeah.
engineering and everything leading up to that would have been before this spring, really, and then construction was during this crop season, and then now we're, paperwork and stuff through the winter and wrapping it up, but yeah, physical construction's actually done, but yep.
Well, the flow chart will be nice for anything new coming,
Yep,
because then you
I
can
can-
follow it and understand where you're at with each project, but.
Yep, yeah, I think that'd be helpful for
Yeah,
all of you who have.
certainly, I'll get one run up here. We've got one at our office that we've got sticky notes where we hang where different projects are in the process, so.
Yeah, that'll be handy, thank you.
Yeah,
Very good.
We're still sitting there with a motion in a second.
yeah.
Yep,
Yep, we are.
So we established the time of day in the motion.
good.
8 AM.
That's gonna be 8 AM on April 29th. Okay. Alright, well, if no further discussion, then all in favor of setting that date and time, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Tyler.
Okay.
We will get those notices over here right away.
Good, thanks. Drainage repair request.
Yes, drainage repair request.
Kyle has a lot.
Well,
Can we
wanna
take a
do-
really
yeah.
quick break?
Up for discussion.
I know, but it's 10 o'clock and
All
I
right.
drink a lot of water in the morning.
Well, Amber, let's approve Kyle's request here.
They're all in the packet already. You guys
Okay.
have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, cause I had a couple questions for Marge anyway, I mean, so.
Oh,
for
while
dra-
we're in
For
here.
drainage, yeah. I
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Go take a break.
I'm taking a break. Sorry.
Okay. 5-minute break it is.
Yep.
Hey, how'd you get so blessed this morning?
These were already
keep
done. They're already completed.
Okay.
Stuff. We just
Okay.
had to get paperwork for them.
Oh, you filled them all out?
Yeah, we did it
Oh.
last week.
Oh, gotcha,
After the
okay.
meeting. I was here till, I think, a little after 4, looking at other stuff and.
Okay.
drainage room. Too.
Fairly standard that somebody contacts you and you fill out the repair request.
Yeah,
I do
mean,
sometimes, yeah.
it depends, sometimes they call in, sometimes into the office to Marge, sometimes they talk to me. Few people even just call contractor and say, hey, fix this, and then sometimes they get out to the field and they thought it might have been a private one, and then they realize it's county when they get out there or whatever, so. It does vary, but it's fairly common that they're completed before the paperwork's actually done.
Question for
Probably.
you, the sub-fund for emergency response complex,
Yep.
what is that for and how is it gonna be funded? I think I know, but I just wanna double check.
Well, it's not a different source of funding, it's just reorganizing how we label those expenses.
It's a separate fund to keep track of it
Right.
better,
So it's not all.
It really doesn't change anything
Okay.
besides bookkeeping.
Right.
Is it for like the rent and the,
Utilities.
we talked about last
Yeah,
week?
I mean, it's.
Anything to
it's
do
for
with
everything
that building,
Okay.
emergency response complex, is
Okay.
gonna go into that.
Okay,
Yeah,
Fund.
it's really just a bookkeeping
Okay.
piece of the
I
puzzle.
didn't know if you were gonna put, there was some talk last week and I didn't know if certain things were gonna just be put there, but it sounds like you're funneling it all there, so you have it and you know where it's at.
Keep track of that building better, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
alright, thanks.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, they're waiting in line at the driver's license.
Driver's license.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I don't know many people that are too happy about that.
Doesn't sound like someone that's got a license.
No, but they're waiting too, so they have to sit and wait too, so
It just kinda popped in my head. I don't think
I thought the same thing.
That was good, that was good.
training them early to.
That's plenty early.
Sorry to wait for the coffee to quit brewing.
No.
It's okay.
Okay.
Alright, we've got the drainage repair request, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, they're all in the.
They're all in the packet, they're already done.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
They're already done, is it fixed?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion, the supervisors take care of your requests.
Okay, a motion by Wactor. Second by Haas. Any discussion on the repair requests? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, Marge. Amber, you had a question?
Yeah, so, do we have a spreadsheet, Marge, that, lists the drains and which ones are reclassified? There used to be one, is that maintained? There was always one in the drawer in the, yeah, is that maintained since, I mean, we've probably had some changes?
I'll have to look at it and see.
You
I-
don't know if you've maintained it?
No,
No, you
Just
haven't,
for-
or no, you don't know.
no, I'd have to look at it to see where we're at with that.
Okay. Cause we probably should have that updated,
Yeah,
cause I would like a copy of it.
okay.
Okay.
is that like an Excel sheet or?
It's an Excel sheet, it lists all of them and it says whether or not they're reclassified, so that when you're taking drainage requests, when you look at it and you see it's been reclassified, you know what to put on that top line. You know, when you put the DD four,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if it's reclassified, you have to be, pinpoint it and be more specific. So, I just kinda want that. Especially as spring's coming, and I might have some requests, so,
Well, and that'll be good to know with assessments when we set that in May,
yeah,
to know which ones are not reclassified.
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Marge? Alright, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Marge.
Have a good week. Okay, we already did the conference call, so we'll go back to board discussion. Unless Tammy, did you have anything else broader you needed to?
No.
Okay, Howard?
The conference board meeting last Tuesday night,
Yep.
I have nothing.
Okay. Amber?
Same here, conference board. Conference board, and then the other thing, you know, that I will talk about with the, for next week when we have that, is one of my other questions is, you know, how does that look to us? If we do a loan, is that just a cash donation? I mean, I'm sure counties aren't in the business of doing cash donations, and how that looks, what that looks like as, from an audit standpoint. And I guess I have that question just because of, from the past, not saying, I mean, I know laws change, everything changes, but just a past experience was when, the supervisors gave money towards the bathroom project by the grandstands. It's been a lot of years ago. I realized that they were just gonna give them money for that project, and we were told we couldn't do that, that we had to be part of that process in some way. And so, I'm not saying that's the way this is going, but I'm just kind of using it as an example, that we had to pay, the contractors.
Sioux County had to pay the contractor.
Yeah, and not just write a check
Right.
for whatever dollar amount it was. So
Right.
I'm just trying to, I guess, put out fires before they happen.
Yep.
With these questions, so that we don't get dinged and get told that we didn't do, that we did something we shouldn't have done.
Yep.
From an audit standpoint, it could look like a cash donation. Well, we don't give cash donations, you know, we give,
Right.
and they're having a fundraiser, so this would appear to be a cash donation. Again, I know my questions, I don't wanna appear that I'm against this, I'm not against it, I just wanna understand that we're doing it correctly. It's a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
so, that's for me.
Okay.
I don't think I had anything else except the conference board, so I didn't know if, and obviously can wait till yours, I didn't know if you had any updates as far as our next agenda or anything that way, but.
Sure. Josh?
Yeah, conference board, and then last night we had NICOG, board of directors meeting, and just kinda went through some of our, assets and the funds and stuff like that. Looks like we're sitting at, 9.5 million in assets. That's all sitting pretty good. They did go through an audit, and had the 2024 year audited. Nothing major. There was a discrepancy on one of the funds that they're gonna, kinda get that all figured out. Todd is actually going to be, he did attend last night, so he is gonna be our third person on that board, so it's good to see him there. And then the other big topic was the North Iowa Housing Conference that's gonna be happening in Mason City at the Music Man Square. That's on April 24th. There's gonna be there's gonna be some speakers and a lot of discussion and things like that surrounding a lot of different things, policies, grant writing, things like that, just general construction, a lot of different things around like the housing market and so they're inviting a lot of people to come. And that's April 24th, so.
Say 24th or 29th?
24th, April 24th, that's at the Music Man Square.
Looks like a Thursday.
Yeah, it would be a Thursday.
Yep. So, the one request that they had for, the directors, if, you know, they were intending to bring, any open lots or buildings that need improvement, things like that for, some of the contractors and investors and stuff to take a look at and see what potentials there are, so. But, yeah, other than that, that was about it. Okay, no other meetings. Okay.
Yeah, like everyone said, went to the conference board last week, and as far as next steps, at 11 o'clock here this morning, Pam Wymore with the examining board as well, and myself and Brandon and Donna Nielsen, are all gonna meet and revamp our job description or posting, so it's more attractive. So there's a number of things that should be included in that. Right now it's worded pretty as plain Jane as it can be, so, it's, needs a little more incentive language in there, so that's what we're gonna work on at 11, then I did communicate with Brandon a little bit, and he plugged in the new numbers into the budget for how we directed him, and looked fine to me from what we had discussed, so we'll, we haven't had a new date set yet for that. Hopefully in the next week or two at the most, that'll be finalized, so.
So then will there be a posting for an assessor then, or?
Yeah, we're gonna post it, and we're gonna send it out to, all the current counties and assessors in Iowa. There's a mass email list for that, and so it'll go to all of them, and
Assessors
an answer.
Deputies too, right?
What's that?
It goes to the deputies too, correct?
Well, it would go to every office, basically. I don't know that it goes to the deputies directly to their emails.
I think there's a separate.
There's a separate list for that,
Cause
so,
that's what we were talking about, like when
right,
he said they had requested the deputy list now that Nancy had passed her test.
Mhm.
He said there's a separate list for deputies.
Right.
Or people that are eligible to be deputies versus the actual assessor list, which I had requested a couple times.
Right. right.
So,
And is there a misunderstanding, like, someone had told me after the meeting that, anybody can apply to be the assessor?
So, yeah, I did check into that too.
And, yeah, did you find out, I mean, is there an answer to that they can, they just have
Yeah.
to?
Anybody can apply for the job. I mean, I can walk in and apply for the job, but I can't be an assessor, even if I apply for the job. I can't be an assessor until I take my test. And
Right.
and as Brandon described, it's basically a week-long intensive. And you have class Monday through Thursday, you take your test on Friday.
Yeah,
And if you have the knowledge, I imagine you need to have some sort of knowledge going into that, but, if you
But it
make it
is
through that week,
possible
oh yeah,
for
absolutely.
someone to apply
The
that
difficulty
isn't.
is hiring somebody that doesn't have their license yet. I mean, you would basically have to hire with the intent that they're going to take it and pass.
Well, they would have to.
They would have to,
They would have
otherwise
to,
they
but
can't
they
serve as
have
an
it, they
assessor.
have a certain time period, I think that
Right,
in the past, it's kind of been communicated that the only way you can apply is if you are an assessor or a deputy going to take that test, and that's not
That's not true.
necessarily true.
no,
do you know what that time period is?
Well, someone told me, it's the time period, so like when they're appointed, because you have to be careful with the, because of when they actually offer the test.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
they have to,
yeah.
you know, so if you.
We'd have
appoint-
to time that.
Yeah, we'd have to time it correctly with that, but they would have X amount of time to do that. And, you know, there are people probably in other departments that have worked with, and I'm not saying just here, but other people that have worked with things with real estate, have a knowledge,
Mhm.
have, you know, that could possibly be good candidates for that. I mean, obviously, if we're finding it difficult to find someone,
Right,
I think we need to be open-minded on that.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
So how do you broaden the search? I mean, besides.
Maybe that's something to keep that in mind when you're putting
Yeah.
language in the
Right.
job
Mhm.
description
Right.
and the posting of, someone with, maybe general knowledge of real estate or whatever with a willingness to learn and.
Real estate and surveying, property value.
And, the potential to go through that process could also apply, and then obviously the conference board or the examining board would be reviewing those applications, but yeah, I think you probably broaden it by putting other
Yeah.
language in the posting.
Well, I think we should, since we learned that, I mean, if that's the case, we can't just say, oh, well, there's not an assessor or deputy who wants it, there
Right.
could, I did have interest in it.
You just as well say, it's a little bit the fox guarding the hen house here too, if it only goes out to audit, or excuse me, about the assessors. You know, they don't wanna lose their deputy, they're not gonna share the email.
Right.
But it's gonna be posted in the paper and stuff though too, right?
In the local paper?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, was it
Even if
before?
it-
Yeah.
I would think you should.
I believe
You would
so.
have to, yeah.
Even-
Legally, yeah.
Yeah, I think you would have to.
It's in our handbook.
Right,
Yeah,
So-
did we do that before?
We set the examining board, we appoint the examining board, or how does it work?
The conference board.
conference board appoints the examining board.
And they're totally separate from the conference board and everything, and their
Which-
charge is to do what, hire?
To bring a recommendation to the conference board to hire someone. And they're the point of contact, if somebody applies and reaches out and wants to interview for the job, the examining board does that and brings that candidate to the board.
And how long are the people on the examining board?
Think-
And I wanna say are they 4 or 6 year terms?
I have no idea.
I don't
I
have an agenda,
I
I just
think
wanna
6
know.
years is what I've been a part of, but I,
And right now, it's Pam and Jacqueline.
It's Pam, Jacqueline Baugh, and Eldon Myers.
And
Who
I
wanted
touched.
all-
Eldon said he would prefer to get off if somebody else was interested in doing it, and Brad Hoover is interested in doing it, so that was kinda where we're at with that. But we'll need to get a written statement from Eldon, and he said he'd provide that. And then appoint Brad at a
good,
future conference board meeting.
okay. Because like I said, there was a couple people who expressed interest, but they didn't know how it worked, and I'm like, well, we could figure that out, definitely.
Yeah,
You got a lot more incentive to go take a test if the job is waiting for you.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if I lived here in Algona and I worked for Vanguard or had surveying or real estate experience, I think this is really an interesting job to me. And, sure, I'll go for a 4-day test, or 4-day class, and then take a test on Friday, and I'll be an assessor, like that.
Yeah, and with communication from other assessors, they're very willing to help in transition periods, when.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like any other.
And I've had a couple
auditors,
tell me that,
reporters,
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
They're very willing to help,
Yeah,
so,
because the field's so short and,
yes,
That's- yeah.
so, good, okay.
yeah, so that's the next step, I guess, for today. Then, otherwise, I had no meetings, but 2 bills that I think I mentioned one actually, but there's 2 bills in the legislature in Iowa for renewable energy stuff as we're having our solar discussions. They were considering taking the authority away from counties to set setbacks, or they had to follow within the state formula that it can only be, for example, wind turbine, it can only be 110% of the height. That's your largest you can set, or there's gonna be certain parameters for renewable energy. That didn't have enough support in the Commerce Committee, so that didn't pass out of committee. The other one that did pass unanimously out of both House and Senate committees was, differentiating community solar from utility scale solar. So, in our ordinance discussion, they define it as 5 megawatts or less than 5 megawatts, I think is their definition.
It's community.
Is community solar, and that would not fall under, they'd be exempt basically from the regulations put forth by like the Iowa Utility Commission. It wouldn't be considered a utility at that point. And so, when we're passing moratoriums and that kind of stuff, they would then be exempt from such things like that.
Unless you did include that specifically.
Unless you specifically include them, but if the state law says that they're
If
excluded,
it's contrary to state law, it would.
so they would supersede us anyway.
State law trumps us.
Right. So just some good information, and they didn't have an acre limit on defining that, and I know we were talking about an acre and megawatt,
they just said less than 5 megawatts is considered community and not a utility.
Well-
If we're talking acres and megawatts, our thresholds are probably bigger than theirs, so I mean,
Yeah, I'm not saying our having any problem with them, it's just, that's what the legislature's working on, I'm sure it'll pass, I mean, it went unanimously out of committees, so.
Well, and since, you know, our conversation last week on that, I've had some landowners in my district reach out to me and their projects are, I know we said 30 acres, that was kind of that starting, and, you know, the acres that are being talked about in that, it'd be my area,
Mhm.
are anywhere like, more like 35 to 50.
Okay,
So, you know,
you know,
obviously,
how many megawatts.
I don't, I can probably find that out though, but, so that might be something as we go
Sure.
forward, that, you know, will be talked about, cause like I said, you know, I don't want it to restrict
right.
people from doing anything, but.
Yeah, and what Doug has brought to us of, I mean, none of it has been, from what he said too, it's not been like a Honey Creek and Fort Dodge, it's not been a 700 or 1,000 acre project, it's been smaller individual projects so far. For interest anyway. But,
I did encourage them to reach out to others as well, other supervisors as well, because, you know, I said I'm one person,
right,
so, but that conversation's going on, I wanted to say.
yeah. No, I just thought it'd be helpful to update on those two bills, so. Otherwise, got nothing else, and if there's nothing else, to discuss, then we can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Garmin,
Second.
second by Stecker. Any discussion to adjourn? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
So the South Dakota